undeniable queen of pop, bringing her vibe and global influence on pop culture to the heartland. Taylor Swift ends the U.S. leg of her Eras Tour right here in the Circle City. The Super Bowl-like impact of Swiftonomics on the region's economy. Plus, we're back in northwestern Indiana this week for our Engage Indiana series, home of the Jackson 5 and ground zero for new growth in the region. And circling back to the Taylor Swift effect. What T-Swift, Indiana farmers, and soybeans have in common, and how it's making for healthier snacking. Inside Indiana Business is next.
From Indiana's business news leader, this is IBJ Media's Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick, presented by Elevate Ventures, Indiana University, and Liuna.
Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gary Dick, coming to you this week from Northwest Indiana. We are in Northwest Indiana this week for our Engage Indiana series, the 7th of 9 events we're holding statewide. We assembled more than 300 business, community, academic leaders here to talk about big issues facing the region. Now, specifically, we are at the 11th Street station of the South Shoreline here in Michigan City. We were at this station 1 year ago. It was much different, not nearly complete. Now it is finished, part of a $650 million double track project of the South Shoreline, cutting about 30 minutes off the commute from Michigan City to downtown Chicago. It is one great example of momentum that is rolling in the region. And joining me now with more on the impact of this major project in Northwest Indiana, Mike Nolan is the president of the South Shoreline. And Mike, it's always great to see you. We were here a year ago and we talked. A lot different now that this double tracking is complete. I know you're working through some bugs on scheduling, but talk about the impact.
It's really exciting to see the actual operations that the infrastructure has made possible. And while we are getting better every single day, the ability to run the additional trains, to plug in schedule gaps that we had before, the flexibility that we have now that we didn't have before, it's amazing, and it's only going to get better, and we're looking for great things to come.
More trains, cutting that commute time from, in this case, Michigan City to downtown Chicago by about 30 minutes.
30 minutes, yeah.
That's substantial.
Yeah, it's a game changer for people's schedules. In reducing time to and from Chicago. We really want to open up the market for folks who are time sensitive and need to get back to their homes and can't spend 3 hours a day on the train. But if it's a little over 2 hours, you open up that job market in Chicago, bring back those higher wages and reinvest them here in the state of Indiana. It's a quality place. It's the opportunities to live in your community, but then go to a place like Chicago for work, for medical services, for see friends, to go to a Bears or a Cubs or a Sox game, and make it convenient to do so and unlock the connection between Northwest Indiana and Chicago.
In addition to the convenience factor, there's also development, current, but also probably future development. Talk about the impact. Here in Michigan City, I know a big project right in the shadow of where we're standing
Sure,
now.
right behind us here is a $100 million project. First phase is to finish the parking garage, which is nearly up now. We hope to open it up in February of next year. The towers are there and being built for the 100 or 200 unit, 12-story luxury apartment buildings and some retail space. And then just right down the street, there's a $300 million development that's going to be a mixed condo and hotel operation right off the lake. It's a really exciting time to be here in Michigan City.
This is one big project on the South Shore. Another big one, actually bigger than this, $900+ million is the West Lake extension, and that will open up in the spring.
Yeah, we can't wait to open up the West Lake and then really offer really enhanced commuter rail services here to the residents of Northwest Indiana. And you can go from South Bend to Hammond, transfer on a station and go down to Munster-Dyer, or go the other way, or if you want to go from Munster to Chicago. I mean, it gives you so many different options and enhances our service offering for the region.
Big question, then what's next?
So we're right now out with our engineering firm, AECom, and we're going to survey our stakeholders, our citizens, our riders, our elected officials, our planning organizations, and find out what's the vision for the South Shoreline for the next 20 years, and what do we want to see as a region. West Lake is a phased project. We got to Munster-Dyer. It was originally envisioned to go to Lowell, St. John, and Cedar Lake. South Bend wants to go from the airport and bring it back to downtown South Bend, or maybe service to LaPorte or to Valparaiso. What's the vision for the region from a commuter rail standpoint for the next 20 years? And I can't wait to hear what people's ideas are.
Mike Nolan, the president of the South Shoreline, appreciate you taking the time. Congratulations on the project.
Yeah, it's always great to be with you.
The westbound train is now arriving. Please stand clear.
Northwest Indiana, the gateway to Chicago. Indiana's second largest economy, a region built on steel and heavy manufacturing, but one that is increasingly embracing technology. Microsoft has announced plans for a $1 billion data center in LaPorte with 200 jobs. And the region is critical to a planned quantum corridor connecting downtown Chicago to Hammond and ultimately to the Crane Naval Surface Warfare Center with internet speeds 500 times faster than the blink of an eye.
Northwest Indiana feels more like a part of Indianapolis every day. And that's one of our goals. I mean, you and I have talked about this for years now, about how do you make the region more a part of Indiana.
There are other indicators that Northwest Indiana is on the move. Wages are on the rise. And with increasing numbers of people moving into the region from Illinois, population is increasing for the first time in more than a decade.
Our connectivity to the city of Chicago is strong, and we're growing that in a technology base. And so looking at the things, we've got all of these great ingredients, and they're starting to really bubble up together to form something pretty special.
Meantime, quality of life improvements are transforming communities throughout Northwest Indiana. Hammond spending millions to redesign its downtown with a goal of becoming a destination rather than a drive-through city. In Valparaiso, there's the $54 million link, 127 apartments, commercial space, and a parking garage. In Michigan City, in addition to tens of millions of dollars in rail-related projects, the planned closing of the Indiana State Prison and closure of NIPSCO's massive generating station will make two prime pieces of real estate ripe for development. Mayor Angie Nelson Deitch tells me she's dreaming big.
I don't want to see housing there. Sorry, developers, but I would love to see a stadium on the lakefront. I would love to see outdoor parks, or maybe a new gateway into the national park with a lodge. I mean, I have some pie in the sky ideas for that site.
And there are also signs of economic bounce back in Gary. City leaders there working with the University of Notre Dame to help redevelop Gary's downtown area, including plans to spend big bucks to upgrade its transit hub, the Adam Benjamin Metro Center. And certainly when many people think of Gary, they think of the family that once lived at 2300 Jackson Street.
Well, I said I'm going back to Indiana. Indiana, here I come, yeah.
Gary, the hometown of the Jackson 5 and the King of Pop.
Welcome to the Eras Tour.
And there's buzz in the air this weekend in Indianapolis for the Queen of Pop. Central Indiana rolling out the red carpet for the final leg of Taylor Swift's Eras Tour. Find out how it's driving big bucks for Hoosier hotels, restaurants, and retailers.
Here's what's making news around Indiana. Brought to you by the Indiana Association of Realtors. Indiana's 21,000 realtors. The neighbors you know, the experts you can count on.
Welcome back to Inside Indiana Business. We are in Northwest Indiana with an eye to Central Indiana this week, where superstar Taylor Swift is center stage at Lucas Oil Stadium in downtown Indianapolis.
Are you ready for it?
Central Indiana businesses cashing in big time on Swift's star power. For a closer look, we send it back to the studio and Mary Rachel Redmond.
Thanks, Gary. It's Kylie in for Mary Rachel this week. Taylor Swift wrapping up the U.S. portion of her Eras Tour here in Indianapolis, putting the Circle City in a familiar place in the spotlight, not only nationally, but globally. Here's Mary Rachel with more.
When you know a friend for so long, you feel like you can call them by their nickname. I feel like it might be okay for me to start calling you Indy.
she's back and bigger than ever.
This has been the most extraordinary experience of my entire life.
Welcome to the Eras Tour.
We could not be more excited to welcome the world for the last concert of this tour, and for us to be the end, and to see what the artist says from the stage and how she categorizes our city. We know this is the 9th time she's been to Indy. We've seen her grown up here. We've seen her address and sing to and perform for National FFA when she was 18. And now to have her come back at this moment in her career is really perfectly placed from a city standpoint.
Taylor Swift is the hottest ticket on the planet. And just to be clear, that's not coming from her legion of loyal Swifties that number in the hundreds of millions. Since launching the Eras Tour last year, Swift is credited with single-handedly boosting the local economies in every city she's performed in around the globe. And Central Indiana is no different. Visit Indy telling us 81% of ticket holders are from outside the state. Hotel rooms commanding rates 3 times higher than a year ago, with short-term rental bookings up over 200%.
The Taylor Swift weekend is set to be the all-time largest driving force for any tourism concert in the history of Indy tourism. And so it's just hard to put your arms around just the total economic impact. We know it's going to be a healthy 9 figures.
The Taylor Swift direct economic impact will be far greater than NBA All-Star. You're talking about a couple $100 million economic impact. It's the equivalent of getting a Super Bowl.
Leonard Hoop's right on the money. The U.S. Travel Association says in terms of earning power, the Eras Tour is on par with the Super Bowl in every city she performs. So it's no surprise local tourism officials using the high-profile event to extend a friendship bracelet to corporate leaders.
Many of them are C-suite executives, individuals who have the authority to decide where conventions and major sporting events will take place. And so we hope that they will come to Indy, have a positive experience, and leave knowing that we can host these large, very complex events, and that they see us in a new light.
And for those wanting to jump in a getaway car, more than a dozen businesses hosting events so Swifties have a chance to become suburban legends, or just feel like they're 22.
There's this huge economic potential for the city of Beech Grove, and if people come and spend just $1 here in our city, I think it's a win-win.
We know these 200,000 visitors will generate a healthy 9 figures in economic impact, and will add to an already record-setting year for Indy tourism and put a lot of new eyes on Indy and a lot of new feet into our city.
Music to the ears of Indiana businesses. We'll be right back.
Well, welcome back to Northwest Indiana, the home to Indiana's second largest economy. And this week we are putting a spotlight, a showcase on the economy here in Northwest Indiana, what makes this region tick. We did so at our IBJ Media Engage Indiana event at Valparaiso University, the 7th of 9 Engage events we're holding around the state of Indiana. And the key to success lies in so many ways in communities working together to attract investment and talent.
The Dean and Barbara White Family Foundation. It's been around since Dean White returned from service in World War II. White went on to build a huge real estate and hotel business that has made a huge impact and left a big footprint in Indiana. But giving back to community, a top priority for the White family. The latest example, the foundation giving $150 million to help schools in the Gary Diocese. It's the largest single investment in pre-K through 12 Catholic education ever.
How can we transition into a performance-based outcome model that really gives the teachers the tools they need and the students access to some items they haven't had previously, and just make this the best performing Catholic system in the country at scale? And so the size of the gift really was about what we thought it would take to get that job done.
There's also the family's commitment to promoting public health and wellness.
Welcome to the Dean and Barbara White South Lake YMCA, conveniently located on West Braille Drive in Crown Point, Indiana.
That new Y made possible by a $34 million donation from the White Family Foundation. Not the foundation's only gift to improve health in Northwest Indiana. Franciscan Health breaking ground in September on the new Dean and Barbara White Cancer Center in Maryville. The White Family Foundation funding that project with $30 million.
And it's time now to get caught up on the business of health. And to do that, we go back to Indianapolis in the studio and Kylie Valletta.
Thanks, Gary. An Indianapolis-based startup we've been following for more than 15 years has reached the goal line. Nico Corporation, which makes new devices for brain surgery, has been acquired by Michigan-based Stryker. Nico, now part of Stryker, has a portfolio of devices to remove brain tumors and clots after a stroke. We featured Nico in the spring when its clinical trial results were published in the prestigious New England Journal of Medicine. Then President and CEO Jim Pearson predicted that publication would trigger major developments for Nico, and he was certainly correct, with the startup being acquired just 5 months later. During our interview in the spring, Pearson talked about the significance of Nico's device that treats hemorrhagic stroke.
This is the most costly, deadly, debilitating form of stroke with no surgical answer since the dawn of time on the planet Earth. So I'm not overstating it. Like, this kills people. There's been no answer ever.
The device is the first minimally invasive surgical tool in the world for hemorrhagic stroke, and in a clinical trial, the device cut the mortality rate in half. Stryker did not release the terms of the acquisition. Nico's original inventor, Joe Mark, is a Butler University graduate. Taylor Swift fans are part of a new era at Lucas Oil Stadium this weekend, this one related to food. Lucas Oil is the most recent major sports venue in Indy to make the switch to using hyoleic soybean oil to fry food for its concessions. The oil is more economical and it's considered healthier because it's lower in saturated fat and high in heart-healthy fats. Indiana is the #1 producer of hyoleic soybeans in the world, which makes the bean the real headliner this weekend for Hoosier farmers.
This oil really supports Indiana farmers. And it's a regional product, so that checks some major boxes for us. Having it be a local and sustainable product where we're supporting local farmers, so that's huge for us.
Swifties this weekend are munching on Taylor Tots and Fearless fries cooked in the new oil. The stadium expects to go through 2,000 pounds of oil for the concerts, which is the biggest amount yet used at Lucas Oil, and that's music to farmers' ears. And Gary rejoins us next to wrap things up from Northwest Indiana.
Time now for our Eye on Education, brought to you by PNC
We begin
Bank.
this week with a look ahead to how things could unfold next for Indiana's economy. The IU Kelley School of Business has released Futurecast 2025, an annual economic forecast for Indiana and the nation. Positive economic growth expected to continue across the state, with central Indiana expected to continue to be the key driver for that growth. In Terre Haute, Indiana State University has started work on its largest capital project in school history. The $66 million investment will renovate and expand the technology annex at the Bailey College of Engineering and Technology. ISU's president tells us the project is already opening doors for more partnerships.
I just think about all these opportunities that our students currently have and how we're going to be able to enhance those opportunities in this engineering and technology area. Having an opportunity that we have to come alongside business and industry to drive the economy in Indiana is something we take very seriously.
The renovation is expected to be complete in 2027.
Well, tourism here in Northwest Indiana continues to be a driver of the economy. Indiana Dunes National Park, the only national park in Indiana, Fair Oaks Farms and the Horseshoe Casino in Hammond, 3 of the biggies, and the region is looking to locate a new convention center.
Tourism is already big business in Northwest Indiana. Visitor spending pegged at $1.2 billion in Lake County alone, the second highest in Indiana. Gary's Hard Rock Casino, the latest boost to tourism numbers that are anchored by the state's only national park, Lake Michigan and Fair Oaks Farms, which attracts more than 500,000 visitors annually. Now the region is eyeing a new convention center to help fill a void left by the 2017 closure of the iconic Radisson Star Theater, which had served as the primary convention venue in the region, hosting more than 350 events annually. Multiple potential locations have been identified.
We have Hobart, we have Gary Hard Rock, and we have a few Maryville sites, a Hammond Highlands site in the top 5, and 2 proposals have been submitted. So an RFP was issued by our Lake County Commissioners. They can make a decision as early as December. So they're already starting their public meetings, and they're going to have presentations this week. So they're excited. Everyone's excited about it, and we'll see what can happen, because there is an economic case to be made as to why we should have a convention center here in Northwest Indiana.
Supporters estimate that by year 10, a Northwest Indiana Convention Center could generate economic impact of more than $70 million annually.
Well, that's all the time we have for this edition of Inside Indiana Business from Northwest Indiana, where the trains are running on time and the region is celebrating the completion of the double tracking project, looking forward to the Westlake extension and that opening up in the spring. I'm Gary Dick. Thanks for joining us. Go out and make it a successful week.